What is happening, guys? This is Asif and you're watching the Tech Tipper channel, and today I have got this camera which is apparently the best vlogging camera from Sony. It's Sony ZV1, and so let's unbox this camera and then we will talk about the camera itself. So I got this camera from Amazon.in for rupees 59,990, and the international price of this camera is $800, although I found a listing on Amazon.com and the camera was available for $650. So I'll put the link in the description in case if you're interested. Continuing with this unbox, when you unbox it, you get the warranty papers and some other paperwork, user guide, and then you get the camera, which is nicely packed in a translucent soft pouch. Holding the camera for the first time, and it feels light because it is made up of plastic, high quality plastic. And then we get a windscreen which goes on top on the microphone, we'll talk about in a second. And there is a micro USB cable which is used for charging the battery. The battery is pretty small, it has a capacity of 1240 milliamp hour, and there is a 64 GB card available in the box, the one that I purchased. And there is a horseshoe mount on the top of the camera, which can be used for clipping in the windscreen that goes on top of the microphone, which is a directional microphone. Talking about the quality of the camera, if I compare it with Canon G7X Mark II, it feels plasticky. It is not bad, but when you compare it side by side, the Canon G7X Mark II definitely feels more premium because it is made up of metal. So it is little heavier also when we compare it with the ZV1, which is lighter. And the other difference is the flip screen. Thankfully, Sony gives a flip out screen. It flips on the side, unlike the flip out screen on the Canon G7X Mark II that goes up. And the other good thing is that you can rotate the screen so that you can also frame yourself if you are vlogging, which is a must-have thing if you are a vlogger and if you want to record yourself, so that you can frame yourself properly. The settings inside the camera, it is pretty regular of what you get in a Sony camera. So if you had previously owned a Sony camera, you will be able to do it easily. If it's your first camera, you will have to play around for a couple of minutes until you figure out what the settings on the camera should be. I'll take a moment to set up my camera, and once I set it up, I'll step out and check out the video footage which I'll attach in this video. So I'm here in the zoo to do a bunch of camera tests, and this is one of the tests where I am walking from shades into the sunlight. It gives you an idea how the camera manages light. And I'm holding the camera in my hand, stretched my hand far enough to frame myself, and active stabilization is turned on. There are two types of stabilization. One is standard, which only gives you optical image stabilization. The other one is steady, which gives you electronic image stabilization as well. But it also means that it crops in a little bit, which means if I turn off the active steady mode, then I will be able to frame myself even more properly. Maybe I will not have to extend my arm to maximum. Now I have disabled the active steady mode and only standard stabilization is enabled, and I am able to frame myself properly even without stretching my arm to maximum. And it also gives you a benefit of recording your voice more clearly because your camera will be a little nearer to you. And just for comparison's sake, this is how the footage is going to be when you turn off or disable the stabilization. The stabilization is totally disabled, and if I walk, you will be able to see some jerks in the video footage. And you can still manage by using only standard mode if you do not have to walk or run faster, and if you have got steady hands, you can manage this properly. like I am doing right now. I'm walking, and even I'm walking and only standard stabilization is enabled, and it is doing pretty decent job, I can say. But most people who would be vlogging with this camera will be using something like this, a gorilla pod or a selfie stick, and it gives you a little more room to frame yourself, because you will be able to move your camera a little farther to frame yourself properly. So I'm gonna attach this to the camera and see how much room we have. Now I have attached the gorilla pod to this camera, and stabilization is turned off, so I have got enough room to frame myself properly and also show something which is behind me. This is the standard stabilization mode, which takes care of little bit of jerks, but the video is still going to be a little shaky, which can be fixed by enabling the active stabilization on. So the active steady mode is turned on, and as you can see, I am getting a little more room when I have attached the gorilla pod, because it moves the camera a little far in comparison to when you hold the camera in your hand. And again, the audio is being recorded directly into the inbuilt microphone, which Sony says that it has improved a lot, and they have also mentioned that it is a directional microphone. There is not much sound here, but I think you will get an idea how the capture is going to be. Now I have attached an external microphone. It's a directional microphone from Boya for around $30. I'll put the link in the description if you want. But it will fairly give you an idea about how useful it is to have an external inputs option. Alright, we are back at the studio, and now let me talk about some of my favorite features of the Sony ZV1. Before doing that, let me switch to the Sony ZV1. I'll still keep that open for comparison's sake. And also, the audio that you are listening to is directly recorded into the Sony ZV1. And the external microphone that is attached to my Canon 750D is pretty close to me. So don't compare the audio, because the mic is like one arm's length away from me, the inbuilt microphone on the Sony ZV1. The external microphone that is attached to this camera is 1 feet away from me. But just to give you an idea how the sound is going to be when you are indoors and in controlled lightings, this is how the footage is. And you don't need this windshield when you are indoors, because there is no wind inside. And I'll use this to showcase one of the best features of the Sony ZV1, which is this. If you do not appreciate, let me do it again on the Canon 750D. So if you have noticed, the Canon 750D is keeping my face focused and is not bringing this windshield in focus. And if I have to do this on Sony ZV1, it immediately does that, because there is a product showcase feature that can be achieved by clicking a single button. You can keep it turned on and it will bring anything that you bring closer to the camera in focus. In most of the DSLR cameras, you will have to hide your face in order to bring anything that you are showing in focus, and most of the time it does not even get in focus. It takes a bit of time, which is not the case for the Sony ZV1. It is a time saver, which is a very crucial thing for content creators, and this feature is pretty useful for a lot of content creators. If you are an influencer, if you are a fashion influencer who has to showcase products, you can do this using this feature without wasting any time on waiting for the camera to bring this in focus. And the second favorite feature on Sony ZV1 for me is the background blur. Now, the background blur on Sony ZV1 is not something that you see on smartphones, because in smartphones it is done using software. It figures out what the background is, then makes a layer and then blurs the background so that the subject is clearly visible and it looks like that it is in focus and the background is blurred, but it is done all using software. But the background blur on this camera is done via the settings, which can be found in any digital camera. But to achieve the basic blur feature in digital cameras, you need to have a basic understanding of camera and some time so that you can do it. I am not much into camera settings and I don't have time. If I am on the field vlogging and if I have to achieve that blur, I will not go into the settings to do that. I will simply record that video. But one click button on Sony ZV1 gives background blur, so I will be using it more. Now the third favorite feature on the Sony ZV1 is ND filter. ND filter is a little technical term. In plain English, you can think of it as sunglasses for your camera. Like when you go outside, there is bright light, so what you do is you wear sunglasses to adjust the light. ND filters are actually available for every DSLR camera lens. You can buy them additionally and carry them and put them on whenever required. But the ND filter on the Sony ZV1 is built in, so you don't have to carry anything else. Now I have turned off the Canon 750D and put on the external microphone on the Sony ZV1. So now the same external microphone is going into the Sony ZV1, and that's the beauty of it. You can use external microphones, any type of external microphone, and get the best possible audio quality from this tiny little camera. And there are a lot of things that I like, and maybe I'll do a separate video. I'm still learning about a lot of things in this camera. So this was the unboxing and overview of the Sony ZV1 best vlogging camera of 2020-2021, and I'll be doing more videos talking about the comparisons between this camera and bulky DSLRs, and even comparing this camera with smartphones and the ease of using it, and whether or not you should upgrade from smartphone to this camera if you are a vlogger, if you're starting out. So if you stumble upon this video and haven't subscribed yet, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so that you don't miss out on all those videos related to the Sony ZV1.